Hey everybody, it's Mike LaChance back with another video. I said it last night and the night before, but in case you haven't done so, please hit the like button below this video and subscribe to my channel, Mike's TV Lab, if you haven't already done so. Jumping right in, I'm going to be making videos from now until the election, possibly beyond the election if things go well. I'm adding a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe. You'll get the new videos as they're released. I have to say, Joe Biden is so out of touch. I know a lot of people are going to think that goes without saying, but it has to be said again and again. Maybe not just Joe Biden. Maybe Joe Biden and the entire Democratic Party. Biden did this interview today with CNN, Jake Tapper of CNN, and it was astounding to watch. There were so many bite-worthy moments in the interview. But one of the ones that really stood out to me was the moment when they started talking about Michigan. And one of the reasons they were talking about Michigan is because Trump was holding a rally tonight, or not a rally, but an outdoor campaign event in Michigan, which had massive turnout. And so Biden was doing this interview. I think he was also in Michigan. And Jake Tapper asked him, how did Trump win Michigan when you and Obama won Michigan in 2008 and 2012? And Biden first said, well, I think that some voters in Michigan felt like we took them for granted, which is a massive, massive understatement. And then he went on to say, and Trump also blew that race whistle, implying that the same voters who sent Obama and Biden to the White House twice in 2008 and 2012 suddenly overnight became racists the moment they decided to pull the lever for Donald Trump in 2016. And this is part of why I say Biden and the Democrats are just completely out of touch. Is because a massive swath of voters have completely abandoned the Democratic Party in favor of Trump, and they still have no idea why. They just do not get it. I mean, it's so obvious. It's as plain as the nose on your face if you're paying attention. But the best Joe Biden can do is play the race card. Now, if you go back in recent history, I mean, you can go back pretty far in history, but let's just go back to recent history, okay? Go back to 2008 and maybe to 2, 3, 4 elections before that. The Democratic Party was seen as the party of the working class, the middle class, the little guy struggling to get ahead. And the Republicans were seen as like the party of big business, the corporate party. And that is still partially true to a certain extent. But you could also say that about the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party gets massive donations from Wall Street. The Democratic Party gets massive donations from big banks. I mean, the corporate world spreads its money out in both parties. They have to. It's like an insurance policy for them because they don't want to be caught flat-footed no matter who wins, you know what I mean? And they've got the cash to do it. So they give a lot of cash to both parties. Okay? That's just a fact of life in politics. You don't have to like it, but it's true. But anyway, back in the day, the Democrats were seen as the party of the middle class, the working class, the little guy, and Republicans unfairly were branded as like the party of big business and corporate culture, when in fact that's true of both parties. Anyway, Democrats basically abandoned the middle class. They abandoned the middle class. They abandoned working class people. And so those people went to Trump because Trump spoke to them. And Trump made them understand that he got them and that he understood what they were concerned about. He understood that they cared about their jobs and the economy and the fact that jobs were being sent overseas and that manufacturing was being sent overseas. Trump understood this, and he spoke to these people, and they said, okay, this guy gets it. And a lot of those people said, we don't care that he's a Republican. We don't care that he's not a Democrat. He's speaking our language. And that's why they voted for Trump in 2016. Now, what the Democratic Party should have done immediately following the 2016 election was they should have done an autopsy on their own party, figured out where things went so wrong, and figured out how to bring those voters back into the fold. Because anyone could have told them the day after the 2016 election, you are not going to win in 2020 unless you bring these voters back into your fold. And I'm sure somebody somewhere along the line told them this, but they did not listen. They instead put all of their time and energy into pushing the Russia hoax, trying to reverse the results of the 2016 election, denying the results of the 2016 election. And then when that didn't work, going on to Ukraine and the 25th Amendment, and they just got lost in this madness that they had. Some call it Trump derangement syndrome. They got lost in this, and they did nothing to try to bring back the voters that they would need now. And now Biden just looks foolish, making these stupid little overtures to the working class. Even his campaign slogan, "Build Back Better." It's ridiculous. People don't buy it. You've got Biden out there on the campaign trail this week standing in front of a sign that says, "Buy American" or "Build American" or something. He's just ripping off Trump. People know this. People are not stupid. Think about, compare like the Democratic Party and Joe Biden, just in terms, let's play like a word association game. When you think of today's Democratic Party, what do you think of? I'll tell you what comes to mind for me. What comes to mind for me is race baiting, riots, Antifa, preferred pronouns, microaggressions, safe spaces, free everything, higher taxes. Those are the things I think of when I think of the Democratic Party. I think of identity politics. I think of toxic masculinity. I think of critical race theory. These are the things that the Democratic Party has become all about. You know, they're the party of AOC and Tlaib and Bernie and the far left. What do you think of when you think of Trump? I think of jobs, economy, strong economy, lots of jobs, low unemployment, national security, America first, good trade deals, bringing hostages home from foreign countries. There's no contest. There's no contest. Take your average guy or woman in some small town in Ohio where all the jobs have been shipped overseas for the last 25 years. And the Democratic Party is saying, you know, you have to use preferred pronouns or you're going to be penalized. And Trump comes along and says, I'm going to bring your jobs back. I'm going to bring your high wages back. I'm going to put you first. I'm going to help you rebuild your community. I'm going to help you rebuild your town. I'm going to make your state stronger. I'm going to make your family stronger. And I'm going to get out of the way. I'm not going to tell you you have to do anything. I'm not going to tell you how to eat, what to wear, what to say. All I'm going to do is try and help you and your family and your community. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Better money, better life, better house, better neighborhood, lower taxes, better property values. That's why the Democrats are losing. And that is why they will continue to lose as long as they continue to embrace this far left insane ideology of progressivism that you can find on any college campus. This insanity used to be relegated to college campuses. Now it's been brought into our lives through professional sports, media, Hollywood, and you can't escape it. It's everywhere. So more and more people are just shutting it out, shutting it off. People aren't going to as many movies as they used to. Well, of course, with the lockdowns, you kind of can't go to movies. But I mean, even when it comes to Netflix, I'm not even going to get into what's happening on Netflix right now because I want to keep this, sort of family oriented. I think you all know what I'm talking about. If you've been following Twitter for the last couple of days, you probably know what I'm talking about. People are shutting it off. People are unsubscribing from Netflix. People aren't watching the NFL. People aren't watching Hollywood movies. People aren't sending their kids to college. Why? Because they don't want any part of this. They don't want any part of this insanity. They want to be proud of their country, proud of their family, proud of themselves. They don't want government handouts. They want to work. They want to have an identity of their own as an individual with a job who makes money and can provide for themselves and their family. It's so simple. It's so simple. And Trump gets it. And the Democrats do not. And they have not gotten it for a long, long time. And until they figure this out, they're going to continue to lose. Now, some of you may say, but wait, Mike, what about the 2018 midterms, where Democrats won the House of Representatives? I can explain that very simply. Number one, Trump still had the shadow of Russia hanging over his head. And he had 99.9% of the media banging that drum on a daily basis. Okay, so his approval went down a little bit. And he was dealing with that, and there was a lot of negativity associated with that. But the other thing that almost never gets mentioned is that in the run-up to the 2018 midterm elections, a record number of Republicans retired. If all of those Republicans had not retired, if they had instead, held on for one or two more terms, and ran in 2018 rather than ducking and running, Republicans might still hold the House of Representatives. I'm not going to say they definitely would, but they might. But they certainly couldn't hold it with so many people retiring. And a lot of it had to do with Trump, because a lot of these old school Republicans didn't get it. They didn't get it. They didn't get Trump's appeal. They didn't understand what he was trying to do. They didn't understand what he was all about. And a lot of them were like, you know what? I'm going to just retire and get my government benefits. So they were out. And you know what? The Republican Party is better off because of it. It was time to bring in some new blood anyway. But the Democrats lucked out because they had momentum from the media. They had momentum from their grassroots. And they had some young, attractive candidates, at least candidates who are attractive to the left. And that's why they won the House. But I will say forever that had this huge wave of Republicans not retired, Republicans probably still would hold the House of Representatives. And I think that they have a chance to retake it this fall. because there are a lot of young new Republicans running for Congress this fall. So there's a very good chance Republicans retake the House. And again, in terms of just not understanding what basic things most people want, the Democrats don't get it. They don't get it. And just look at Biden compared to Trump as people. You know, people look at Trump and, you know, if you're on the left, you look at Trump and you see like a billionaire, you know, who always had it easy. Well, so what? So he was lucky. He was born into a wealthy family. But the man has worked his whole life. He's worked very hard. And he's worked pretty much exclusively in the private sector. What does Biden know about having a job in the private sector? He's been working in government for the last 40 plus years. Biden doesn't know what it's like to be a working class person. Obama didn't know what it was like to be a working class person. No one in the current leadership of the Democrats that I can think of off the top of my head knows what it means to be a working class person. You know, they're from academia. They're from government. You know, they go from government job to government job. Or they work in nonprofits as activists and organizers. Maybe AOC. She was like a bartender at least, right? At least that's one nice thing you can say about AOC. At least she worked for a living before she got her job in Congress. Now, I'm not saying that she's good in any other way, but we'll at least give her that, right? Trump may be a wealthy guy, but he understands working people. It's one thing that you heard both his daughter Ivanka and his son Donald Trump Jr. say repeatedly during the 2016 campaign. Whenever they would talk about their father, they would say, you know, whenever he was on a job site, the thing he wanted to do more than anything else was talk to the workers, the guys who were, you know, swinging the hammers, and the guys who were putting up the drywall, and the guys who had the jackhammers, and the guy, you know, he wanted to talk to the crew. And he spoke with them, and he knew how to relate to them. And that shows in his political success. Because I guarantee you, you could drop Trump into a room full of working people, like blue-collar, working-class people, and he could speak with them very freely and easily. He speaks their language. Biden doesn't speak any language. I don't know what language Biden is speaking half the time. The guy can't string a sentence together. Everybody always said about Biden years ago that, you know, he may be wrong-headed, but he's a really nice guy. So maybe in the old days, Biden could talk to a room full of people like that too, just by virtue of him being able to sort of relate to people. But I think that he's slipped mentally way too far. And now, every time it seems like he gets approached by a working person, he ends up insulting them. You know, dog-faced pony soldier, look fat. He gets, like, grumpy. Like, whenever someone questions him. It's crazy. You know, the only other thing I'll say, I don't know if you heard this. I heard this a lot back in the weeks and months leading up to the 2016 election. I heard people who were older than me, like maybe boomer age people, saying things like, well, the Republicans today are what the Democrats used to be. I heard that from more than one person back in 2016. And I kind of see that playing out now. I mean, I remember the Republicans when I was growing up, like in the 70s and 80s, was a very, very different party. It was much more socially conservative and more fiscally conservative, but definitely more socially conservative. Today, in the Republican Party today, I mean, anybody's welcome. Nobody gets turned away. You can be any kind of person and be a Republican. You know? It's a very welcoming environment. And anybody who's ever been to a Trump rally will tell you that. It's people from all walks of life. And the only thing that binds them together is that they're all Americans. And they're all proud of that. Unapologetically proud to be Americans. That has major appeal with voters. And that's another thing that the Democrats simply do not understand anymore. You know? Democrats are all about taking a knee at the national anthem. Not going to work. Not going to work with like blue collar people who are proud of America, proud to be Americans. You know, every time this comes up at a Trump rally or in one of Trump's speeches, he always says, and we will always stand for our beautiful flag, and we will always stand for our beautiful national anthem. He's unapologetically proud to be American. And he makes other people feel the same way. And he makes people feel good about being proud to be American. The Democrats have gone in the completely opposite direction. And it is such a major turnoff to so many voters. Voters that they can't win without. And that's why I think they're going to be in real trouble in November. I mean, nothing is written in stone. But I don't know how Biden pulls this off. I really don't. I mean, a lot of people have theories about, you know, how Democrats are going to try to steal it after the fact with mail-in voting and this and that. I don't know. I don't know about any of that. I think that if all of the people who support Trump, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, independents, libertarians, or people who used to be Democrats, who now are Trump supporters, I think if all those people show up and vote, I think Trump will win. I really do. In fact, I think that he'll pick up some states that he didn't win in 2016. And a lot of it is going to have to do with what I've been talking about here, which is that Democrats have lost their way. They've completely lost their way. And they've done nothing to bring back into the fold the voters that they would need in order to win. So that's all I have to say about that. Remember, if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel, like this video, leave a comment. I'll be happy to read it. I want to hear your opinion. And I'll see you next time. Take it easy.